All right, so we're looking at breaking news this hour and developments in the occupied West Bank, where Israeli warplanes have hit a Palestinian refugee camp. At least 18 people have been killed in Tulkarem. The Israeli military says multiple fighter jets conducted the attack and that it was aimed at a senior Hamas official based there. Many of the wounded have been taken to a nearby hospital. Israel's carried out dozens of airstrikes and daily overnight raids in the occupied West Bank since the war in Gaza began, killing more than 700 people. Now, also a short time ago, huge explosions were seen near the Lebanese capital. Well, this is Beirut's southern suburb of Dahiya, where Israeli fighter jets pounded the densely populated neighborhood with multiple airstrikes. Israeli media says Hashim Safi al-Din, the man who's widely seen as the successor of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, was the target. Nasrallah was assassinated last week in an Israeli airstrike on Beirut's southern suburb. Now, let's get the latest on these strikes. We're going to one of them, the Israeli airstrike. We'll speak to Nour Khan. She's live for us in Beirut. But first, let's bring in Nour Odeh. She's in the Jordanian capital, Amman. She's reporting from there because the Israeli government's banned Al Jazeera from reporting in Israel. Nour, what is the latest from there? We understand that the Israeli army in most recent months hasn't used fighter jets, has often used drones, but this now has been a very different type of airstrike, hasn't it?
Indeed. In fact, I can't recall in my many years of reporting in Palestine an airstrike that caused as many casualties in the occupied West Bank. This is the first time the Israeli army uses fighter jets in an airstrike in the occupied West Bank since the Second Intifada. That's 20 years ago, or over 20 years ago. We understand that at least 18 people have been killed, including Zahi Aufi, the head of the Hamas military wing in the Tulkarem area, along with fighters belonging to Palestinian Islamic Jihad and others. The hospitals have been overwhelmed. This is a refugee camp that has been pounded by repeated Israeli military raids. It has been upended, really. The level of destruction seen there, not seen since 1967. This is an impoverished refugee camp. The airstrike leveled a three-story building, and rescue workers are still going through the rubble to make sure that there isn't anybody trapped under that rubble.
And Nour, aside from the strike, we also understand that generally there have been an increase in raids and strikes in the occupied West Bank since October the 7th, haven't there?
Absolutely. We're now at over 700 Palestinians killed since the beginning of the war on Gaza. The United Nations calls this a silent war in the occupied West Bank. On the one hand, you have an increase of daily raids into the occupied West Bank. You have a dramatic increase of mass arbitrary detention, as it is described by the UN. Over 10,000 Palestinians detained just in the past 12 months. And you also have strategic steps taken by the Israeli government to take over the occupied West Bank, to grab as much land as possible and to integrate the territory administratively into the state apparatus, and hence the reference to a silent war. While the world attention is rightly focused on Gaza and now on Lebanon and on the regional fallout of all of that, including the confrontation with Iran, a lot is happening on a daily basis in the occupied West Bank, including now this new escalation. Israel is establishing a new, more violent, more potent normal in the occupied West Bank while the world is looking elsewhere.
And Nour, you touched on this when we began speaking, talking about the strain on very limited resources. And some of the latest lines coming out is that from the Palestinian Water Authority, they say that over 85% of water and sewage facilities have either completely or partially ceased operations. And why I'm mentioning this is in combination with the strikes that you're seeing in the region. How badly affected are people? How is the situation compounded by these kind of difficulties?
Look, the economy in the West Bank has shrunk by over a third in the past year because of Israeli restrictions, because of those daily raids and the massive destruction. You have a government, a Palestinian government, that is basically on its knees financially. It is not receiving the tax returns collected by Israel on its behalf in accordance with signed agreements. It is out of money, unable to pay its civil servants full salaries. And when you have this kind of massive destruction with hundreds of people being displaced on a regular basis during these raids, with the level of destruction for homes, the home demolition rate skyrocketing over the past 12 months, you begin to draw a picture of utter devastation, not just for the infrastructure, but really the social inability to provide help to those who need it.
All right, Nour, we'll leave it there for the moment. We will speak again. That's Nour Odeh in Amman, the Jordanian capital. And a reminder, that's because Al Jazeera has been banned by the Israeli government from reporting in Israel or the occupied West Bank.